I'm waiting for the ASU online hitmen to come after me because these are supposed to be like 5 to 7 minute videos. But what I told them is, hey, what are they paying for? My stories. I said my stories alone take 3 minutes. How am I? Oh, excuse me. How am I supposed to do a video? But anyway, so I apologize if these have a tendency to run a little bit long. This is what I say to my entrepreneurs, and this is how you evaluate whether or not you have a business. What I do is unique, meaning you do something special, is difficult to copy, and makes a sustainable profit. If you can say yes to those three things, you have the potential for a startup. And the thing about difficult to copy, you could copy Walmart, although one of the big barriers is just the sheer mass and dollars you would need. But you could try to copy Walmart. Everything's been published about it and everything else. But whichever be Walmart, the thing about Walmart is to their last DNA, to every last person, which makes up the body of their company. They're committed to doing it a certain Walmart way. And this is why a lot of people are cheap imitations when they copy, because they don't have the inspiration or something like that. GoPro. What was the big deal about making a more robust camera? But the thing is, Nick Woodman, the founder of GoPro, understood the customer better than anyone else. And guess what? He got away from that, and GoPro started going. Because Nick Woodman was an extreme sports guy, so he could relate to people. He understood this a lot better than Kodak or HP or somebody else. So what are the things that help sustain a competitive advantage? And that's that your core business, your focus on R&D. Are you R&D driven? And a lot has to do with what are you the best at. Yeah, I know the customer intimacy. I know the customer better than anyone else. I've got the best product out there. Or it could be due to distribution. And that's actually in distribution, that's an issue with biomedical, actually. Meaning if you have a biomedical product, it is very, very difficult to get into a hospital because they want to talk to a rep. And that's why a lot of coming up companies make deals, distribution deals. Some of the characteristics is, do you have a brand? Brand is a tough line to walk because, I don't know, it's like power or love and relationships, a lot of work to create. Just one screw up to lose the whole thing. Is it about your supply chain, your patents? Tessera is a company that actually, they don't make anything. All they have, they tried to do production and they were terrible at it. So in semiconductor packaging, what they did realize is we have good R&D engineers and we have good lawyers. So what they do is they create technology and they go license it. And so as you can imagine, their profit margin is pretty big because, you know, they're just rolling in royalties. I mean, how much overhead do you need for that? Are you individual driven, that you have certain employees that are very valued? Frank Quattrone, before he went to jail, was once one of the biggest venture capitalists in Silicon Valley for Credit Suisse First Boston. I mean, this was a man who was paid $25 million a year. The thing is, he took companies like, yeah, I know that's annoying. I'm sorry. Companies like Netscape and I believe Amazon Public. Your location. Are you geographically located where you can take advantage of things? A lot of Chinese businesses are like that. Or do you have a monopoly that the government protects you from? And that happens in a lot of foreign countries. So as you can see, part of having a sustained competitive advantage is having that flexibility of mindset, of always looking at your operations and aligning everything to your mission. There are a lot of Me Too businesses out there, and guess what? Those are the ones who are always under the threat of going under. You try to be Avis to Hertz, but eventually it catches up to you, And an example of that is like Motorola. So what are the barriers of entry to market? Regulation is an issue. Government subsidies, for example. The solar market in the United States would probably disappear tomorrow if there weren't all these subsidies for it. The oil business, are you kidding me? They're not subsidized. Guess what? They got the U.S. military behind them. You try to steal one of our oil tankers, all of a sudden you're going to watch a carrier fleet come after you. There are laws in place to stop businesses from undercutting other businesses at a pure loss. That's what actually happened, why we lost the U.S. semiconductor business. And I was out there when it happened. The Japanese dumped the memory, the DRAM chips on us at a loss. And I watched companies overnight go under. It was horrible. Patents. Be careful about patents. Again, patents are just a head on a stick in the ground. The value of a patent is your ability to defend it. Here's an example of an article which I'll leave to you to read. Other barriers to entry is restrictive practices. For example, the big airlines own gates, and so it's difficult for new airlines to get in there. And that's why, so how did Southwest and JetBlue get in there? Deregulation. You try to control the supply, which has to do with distributor agreements or supplier agreements. If there are, for example, there aren't that many sources of titanium in the world, so you can lock up the titanium supply. For solar, their technology is based on cadmium telluride. What they did is they locked up like about 80% of the world's telluride supply for those devices. Economies of scale. This is one of the tough things for startups. You're in the chicken and the egg situation. And that chicken and the egg situation is, I don't have enough sales to get a discount. But if I could get my price down, I know I could get a lot of sales. So how do you get to that? And the larger companies are already there. In terms of customer loyalty, who knows who better? You know the big companies, you don't know the little one. Advertising. Advertising actually doesn't have that big effect on sales compared to a lot of other things you can do in marketing. Advertising is most useful when it's in support of the brand. But the big thing, though, is more than advertising, it's about name recognition. And also, R&D could be an advantage for you just because labs are really expensive and all. Now, this doesn't mean you can't compete. There are a lot of resources out there that you can tap. So Porter also talks about clusters or competitive clusters. And that's that people can team up. Or you could try to hoard them all together where you can create critical mass. And so like OPEC is an example.